Okay, welcome to Monday. Kind of a skinny week this. So I don't know who's. Okay. Okay,
Isn't she gone?
No, she's here this week. She's not here next week.
Oh,
she's hoping that her flight doesn't get delayed.
Well, it sounds like that's not gonna be resolved till the end of the week.
Boy, that's, yeah, I was hearing that same thing. That would be a real pain, wouldn't it?
daughter's on the way to the airport right now.
No,
Two little kids. Hopefully it goes fine, but
we're just trying to get to,
Salt Lake.
could be a challenge.
The two budget things are law enforcement and you. Okay.
Pardon me? I can't hear you. Oh, yeah, I got the right one today. That's those kids that I keep telling them, when you first pull in off the street and there's not a single car between you and all the way to the window, there's two kids sitting out there and they rush up and stop you right there when you just get off the street. And I've tried to explain to them, let the cars get around the corner a ways so that there's people coming up behind. I've been sitting on the street with two cars in front of me, nobody all the way to the window. And they've got stopping traffic out on the road.
Out onto the road.
And I'm going, you need to get the hell up there, let the traffic off the road. This is not rocket science.
Is that the Dutch Bros by the hospital?
No, it's the one right here on Ocean Beach, Dutch Brothers.
Yeah.
And they're trying to help you. They're trying to do a good job. But they rush right up. Or, yeah, let me do my job. I want to get that tip.
Morning,
Good
Kathy.
morning.
Sorry for being a little bit late. Okay. I have the magic finger today.
While she's doing that, I went to the veterans dinner at the Elks Saturday. And the gal that was emceeing that thing was talking about all the different veterans organizations and all the things that they do. And one of the things she mentioned was that they had a veteran who requested a service dog. And she said, and we can't afford to do that. And then she's talking about American Legion, Veterans Forest Wars, all these different organizations. And I'm thinking about the money we talk about that's in that Veterans Fund. And I'm going, my God, they couldn't afford a service dog. Okay, I'm missing something in this.
Mhm.
Bailey, did you get the law enforcement? Or six? Okay. Now I'm on track. Okay, Kathy Funk Baxter, Finance Director. We have our financials for law enforcement records as our first item. And so this account has goods and services, which is billings to the various users of the law enforcement records. And so those are the cities, surrounding cities, as well as the county. And so we had budgeted 1,290,252. We have actually brought in 1,287,383. I believe it's a difference. It's a small difference of almost a little over $2,000. But those billings are done quarterly, and so those bills have gone out, and this may represent one payment still outstanding.
Kathy, do you know if these billings are based on contract or if they're based on like volume?
They're based upon a contract, and the way I understand it, the cities are quoted in the contract a certain amount per FTE that they utilize. And so Katrina Harris is, I think she's on, she can answer the question.
Katrina, are you on? Or maybe she just sent a note.
Or maybe she just made a comment.
For after hours services?
Mhm.
Okay,
And then the counties billed for basically for the difference
okay.
from what those cities are billed. And when I looked at it, when I was doing the budget for 26, it looks like we pay about a little over 70% of the cost of law enforcement records.
Katrina just posted and said she doesn't have permission to talk.
She grounded.
Says she's on there.
I think Bailey's gonna wave the magic wand here.
There she is.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kathy is right. We have contracts with the cities to provide weekends and after-hour services for the cities. It's a set dollar amount that's agreed upon by, I believe, 3.1 FTEs is what we estimate the amount of work that is, and they pay for that service.
Okay, thank you, Katrina.
You're welcome.
And then they also bring in miscellaneous income because they have a fund balance. And so we budgeted 13,500. They've brought in so far this year $19,361 for a little over 1.3 million in revenues total. Then their
Kathy?
expenses, yes.
That would be the public disclosures costs that we're getting extra money for. Every time they do a public disclosure that's billable, that would be that revenue.
As well as interest income.
Correct.
Then as far as their expenses go, their largest expenses, of course, their personnel. They have 11 FTEs devoted to this function. And so as far as personnel, we budgeted 1,170,357. Actuals are at 820,771, but that doesn't include the second half of October. That hasn't been posted yet. That's posting. Actually, it should have already posted today. But these were run through 10/30, 2025. So it shows that we're a little bit below on the target, but when you factor in the other half of the month. That gets us closer to our target. Supplies, they budget 27,500. They've only spent 2,732, so they're well below their target on supplies. Services, these are primarily services, internal services, for in our service departments. And they budgeted 214,671. They've expended 195,370. They still have a little bit, they're a little bit over target, but that's primarily because those billings were done back in January. So that's where we're at on their expenses. My estimate is they're probably going to come in they're going to come in lower on their expenses than what we have budgeted, but not significantly. So
Say that again.
they're going to, as far as the budget goes, their expenses are probably going to come in a little bit lower than what we budgeted.
It's all, seems to be a lot lower right now, but
Well, the total on the expense column includes ending fund balance. So once you take that out, their expenses are budgeted at about 1.3 million, which is what we budgeted revenue at.
okay.
Okay, let me bring up the next one. Okay. The next account is well, is their actual this is where they have an account where they run through, they have a pass-through for what they bill for Spillman and what they pay for Spillman to outside contract. So this is Fund 51302. The title's a little deceiving, but I think that's an old title that was when they first set this account up. So they have goods and services budgeted at 174,256. They have billed 172,926. So they have still a little bit still to collect. And then on miscellaneous, it's 1,500. That's basically investment income, and they brought in $1,158. So this is a pass-through where they bill, again, they bill the cities as well as the county. And that's for the software that runs their records system. And then as far as expenses, we budgeted 1,500 for supplies. They haven't spent anything yet. And then we budgeted 178,600 for services. Those are the contracts that they have outstanding for this software and for, I think, a consultant that assists with programming. And so they've expended 159,452. So we're a little bit over our budget here, but they do project that they still have some outstanding payments that they need to make. So they're probably going to come in right on track as far as their expenses. And that's it for law enforcement records.
Yeah. And this, it jogs some new stuff I saw this weekend and around AI type stuff. Anything where you're gathering information, I find it kind of interesting. And I'm not saying this to affect anybody here, but like Amazon predicts that and I forget the time frame they gave, because of AI, there'll be 120,000 jobs they won't have to hire. And they're not the only ones. But when you see these big companies kind of look out in the future, it's kind of a little window as to what you can expect to be coming down the road. So it's interesting to me is how governments, and it'll probably be past my time, but how governments will use some of that technology to, especially for the information type gathering services, to be more efficient, or how that's gonna work.
Mhm.
It just seems,
It's just gonna affect us pretty much, I would anticipate.
Yeah.
To some percentage, the same way it's gonna affect them,
because so much of our stuff is
records.
records.
Yeah.
And when you see Amazon is one of the biggest in the world, when they're starting to look at that, and they're not saying a reduction in work source necessarily, but a movement from white collar to blue collar to build these, to construct and do these centers and do all this type of stuff. So I'm not saying that, they're just saying they won't have to have a workforce, and they're guesstimating about 120,000 less, which is kind of interesting to see. Yeah.
Okay, that's it for law enforcement records. Thank you, Katrina. And the next one that we have is solid waste. So this is the regular operating account for solid waste. And this is the intergovernmental. It was budgeted at 150,000. We've received $49,061. That's mainly the Department of Ecology, and it's a reimbursement billing, so it's lagging a little bit because the new contract year started in July, and I believe they bill quarterly.
Yeah, so that's our LaSWIFA grants that come from Department of Ecology. It's a 2-year, July to June. We did expend all of the first grant, and so in July, we're able to start the new grant, get third quarter billing in there, and then we should have a larger fourth quarter billing coming in.
Goods and services is budget is 27,613,384. This is actuals. It's based upon the accrual method for the revenue, and it's 20,451,252 has been brought in. And on goods and services, it's our customer billings, and like I said, they're reported on an accrual basis. We have about 3.4 million currently outstanding as current receivables. So those will be coming in over the course of the next few months, and January and part of February probably.
Sure, yeah, and so, every time we talk solid waste up here, we talk about accruals from earlier this year, so that was about $3.6 million that we accrued back into 24 from 25. Currently, we have receivables of about $3.45 million. We do have a little bit of bad debt in there, about 7,000 from the transfer station. Of that 3.45, part of that's September. Those are due November 15th, so we have a small value there. And then the remaining is going to be our October billings for the transfer station and landfill.
So we're pretty confident that this budget is a pretty solid budget, a little over 27 million. It's a little higher, not much higher than the year before, but it's
Yeah.
in a line with what we billed prior year. So prior year actuals were 26,935,000. Yep. Okay, expenses for the landfill for solid waste. We have personnel budgeted at 2.7,758,000. We have expended 1,934,000 through October 30th. We still have the second half of October payroll that hasn't posted yet. So we are below our target on personnel expenses right now, but when you factor in the second half of October, we're right in alignment. They have 18 positions and 1 position is currently open. So that also accounts for a small portion of the being under budget. Supplies are 1,608,500. We've expended so far 1,280,853, which is a little bit below our target for supplies. And then services is budgeted at 17,231,000, and we've expended 12,688,000 so far. That's showing us a little bit below the target for our services.
And so I want to jump in and give a little context on that.
Mhm.
So services, we pay our landfill lease payment out of that. So we do have one additional payment still left this year of about $1.87 million. And then additionally, our waste control contract is paid out of there. And we have about 2.3 million remaining on that for the year. So with that additional, a little over 4 million, we're kind of on track for the end of the year there.
And then the next budget line item is a transfer of 11.5 million. We've already booked that. That's a transfer. It's made up of transfers to the equipment replacement account as well as transfers for post closures. So. Oops. So the next account is the account where the capital expenditures, some capital expenditures come out of. It's 4802, and we have miscellaneous revenue budget at 220,000. That's primarily a budget for investment income on the fund balance. We've actually earned 481,217. So we had a sale included in that miscellaneous for 55,000 for sale of a capital asset. And the rest is primarily, like I said, investment earnings.
Yeah, so when we, find, I'm going to give an example of, we repair the undercarriage of a dozer. We end up with a lot of scrap metal, the entire tracks and sprockets and whatnot. So those all go to scrap. That gets put in there. If we have some of our older equipment, say we did surplus one of our old compactors, an Aljon. Not a huge market for that, but those kind of things will be sold through that area.
And then this account also has receipts from the landfill account. And so that's budgeted 8.5 million. And of course, we've already booked that. That's part of that previous 11.5 million transfer out. Nothing unusual there. On the expenditure side, we have budgeted capital expenditures of 2.8 million, and we've already expensed a little over 900,000. We have a vertical gas well project. I think that was just within the last, month or two?
They're starting today.
Yeah, so it was approved and it just hasn't, so we have it in the budget, but it hadn't started until, like you said, just now. And that's about a $1.7 million expenditure that's included in that 2.8. And then also cell 10, they're doing the design work, which has started as well.
Yeah, so
So-
we're finishing up the design for cell 10. We won't be constructing that next year like we talked about during our budget meetings, but we do want to have it ready. So when we do want to pull the trigger on that, we get our permits and move forward on it. Additionally, on this fund, we've done some used equipment this year. We had a used excavator, a used mechanics truck. And so that's kind of what's filling in the gaps there.
Sean, when you do those designs, are they in, is it like then approved by Ecology or whoever does the deal, and how long does that approval last before you'd have to redo it?
Yeah, great question. So the designs during the phases are reviewed by Ecology and other regulatory agencies, both at the 60% and the 90% drawings.
Okay.
Once it's approved for construction, there's a 5-year window on that.
So if we get this done and they do final approval, we got 5 years to get that built.
Yep, 100%.
Okay.
There may be some tidying up if the laws change. You know, we've seen that in some of our road projects, say they change the tire dust.
No,
If there's a regulatory issue, they may need to make a
Ostrander,
correction.
or not Ostrander, but out
Cloverdale, yeah.
Cloverdale, yeah.
Sean, I know we've talked about this before. What is the formula that we use to calculate the rent that we can collect from the landfill?
That's based off of the, Kathy, you do that calculation.
Yeah. That calculation is, we first calculate the amount of square yards?
Remaining volume.
Yeah, what's remaining volume for that. And then we have a return of 6%, which has been consistently used over the life of the program. And that basically makes up the calculation. So as you begin to use more of your landfill and you have less landfill, your value is going to go down. And so your rent value will go down in the future. So right now we're at 7.5 million annually collection of rent.
So the rent's based on unused, not on the used part.
Yeah, we come to the valuation of the landfill
Mhm.
based upon the remaining space because, you know, if we were to put a market value on that, the value as the volume of the landfill decreases, there's less value left in it.
And how did we come up with the 6% factor?
So that's a good question. The auditors asked that same question. And so we did some digging, and finally I found information and correspondence through, they did an evaluation, and the attorneys that were working with us on the agreements and everything, they're the ones who recommended that type of return on investment, the 6%. They gave a range, and so then the chief of staff made a, consulted with the board, and they came up with the 6%. It wasn't the highest range and it wasn't the lowest range.
Has it been 6 since we've started?
Yes, yeah. So once you start, you want to be consistent with your methodology. And so it stayed at 6% this whole
And
time.
has that been reevaluated at all?
I worked with Sean, and typically when we do the budget, we look at it again. And so the last time I did it was when we did the 2025 budget. And at that point, the max that we could charge in rent was a little over 8 million, but hovering at 8 million. And so we're at 7.5.
Thank you.
Yeah, the only thing I need caution, like I said, caution is that the 7.5 is what it is now, but as more cells are consumed, that's going to go down.
And so we're still looking at that 2080 for the straight line depreciation of the landfill. Every year as we recalculate that does push out. For 25's recalculation, went from April to October of 2080. So we may see that continue to grow as we reevaluate on an annual basis too.
But the 7.5 is based on that 6% return.
Mhm.
And there's another formula that says we can only charge 8, up to 8 is a maximum.
Well, the 6% equals the 8 million.
And why are we not taking 8 if we're charging 6?
I don't know, it's, the budget's at 7.5.
I just want, because that's $500,000 that we could
Mhm.
use. That
Mhm.
We would
if we
need,
already know it's
Yeah.
gonna be deflated over time.
yeah, we would need to bring in more waste to generate the revenue to cover that.
Yeah. That's the other thing. When you,
So because we're not operating at full capacity, we, 1 million tons is our annual capacity available. Because we're not operating at that full value or a higher value, the 7.5 is what allows for the cash flow for the year.
so when you look at, we just did the budget. So the budget for solid waste, with bringing in, approximately $27 million, not counting investment income. Their expenses are sitting at right now, in the range of a little over 27 million. So we're right now pretty
Uh,
tapped out as far as cash flow, not wanting to shrink that.
And as we've set rates in the past, we've made certain concessions on different areas and recognized where we will take losses, but to allow the operation to go that way, if that makes sense. As we look at transfer station rates, we recognize that we do operate that as a loss and try to offset those with outside waste coming in.
And do we have an idea as to how the contracts that we've renegotiated at higher rates? Do we know where that's gonna impact the budget and where we're gonna end up, given the fact that we're right at 100% now?
Say that for me again one more time.
So the contracts that we renegotiated that we got higher rates for, we're not necessarily increasing the volume that we're putting into the landfill, but we did increase those rates, right? So does that give us any leeway with regards to, like Kathy just said, we're at 100% of the budget right now. How much leeway did that give us for next year?
Yeah, most of our contracts have a CPI language on them. So we'll see a variety of changes depending on which one they agreed with, but most of them are going to be a 2.5% to 3% increase, and they're keeping up with our expenses.
Yeah, so right now for this 2025 budget, we are projected as far as budget, a little over 28 million. And our expenses, because of our transfers out, are at 33 million. So we're a bit upside down, but we had a catch up, I believe,
We did. We
in our
held-
transfers.
In 2025, if we look at in 2024, if we look at the actuals, there's a big gap on the services. We held off the $6 million for the PUD project that didn't come to fruition. And so we made that catch-up payment at that time to the transfer. For 26, our transfers will be back to normal.
Yeah, I think their budget, 9.1 million? Yeah, so they're about 2 million less than they were this year. So,
Yeah. To Commissioner Rader's point on the transfer fees, we were subsidizing that. I'm trying to remember, it was right around $1 million for the cities.
Yeah.
And that kept growing and we said, we don't want to grow it any more than this. And that was the reason for the deal, but we do subsidize it. And if I recall correctly, we're right around the $1 million
Yeah, for
for
2025,
the cities.
it was about $1 million.
Yeah.
For 2026, that'll grow a little bit.
Do we have a breakdown on how much that subsidy is for each city?
I don't, but I can calculate that.
Yeah, you'd be able to calculate.
I'd like to have that information next time it comes up.
They were pretty vocal.
They do. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what it is, if you say it's going out,
Yeah, I know it, right?
you get an immediate reaction.
So, yeah, so we basically said, well, we'll subsidize you where we are. We just don't want to grow this thing. And that was. But
they have two other accounts that we included in our presentation today. These are on the closure funds. I don't think I did all the closure funds, but these are the ones where we're having activities. And so headquarters closure fund, we're bringing in some money, some transfers from solid waste to fund the post-closure liability. And then is miscellaneous all in investment income?
Yes, miscellaneous is all investment income.
Yeah, so we're, based upon the required closure fund format, we have a fund balance in this account of a little over 19 million. And so that's earning interest, and that's put back into the fund. So we budgeted 600,000. We're currently at 673,000 in revenues for that.
The long-term goal is to try and get interest to pay for as much of this as possible. And then we can reduce that transfer as that continues to grow.
Oops, maybe need that back up. That was the revenue side. On the expense side, there isn't any expenses currently. We have a transfer budgeted for 2.3 million. That's an entry that's done towards the end of the year once they do their calculations.
Yeah, so that's an accounting entry to recognize the liability on the fund itself, saying, hey, we recognize that we have this much of expenditure and goes into the liability fund. It's not a true expense.
Yeah. And then we have one other post-closure fund that we're showing. This is headquarters.
Yeah, so the first one was the headquarters closure fund. So those are the funds we put aside. So when it is time to close the landfill, those ones are earmarked for the actual closure of it. This one here is the post-closure, which is the earmark of funds that take care of those years afterwards.
And then this too, we're also earning interest income. So this was budgeted at 210,000. We've already brought in 237,000 in revenue. And then we also had a transfer of 900,000 into this account.
And so if in April of every year, we do what we call the financial assurance calculation and memo, I think we shared that with y'all back in April of this year. So in March of April of 26, we'll have that next calculation and we can see what we're funding and how we're funding it again.
How much money do we put into that closure fund every year?
I think that,
I don't have those in front of me.
yeah.
What are the two numbers together? So the post closure is about 900,000 that we transfer in, and then the closure fund was about 2.1.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's just for the headquarters, right?
correct. Pennant Way also has their own closure funds, both for the, both have post closure funds. The closure fund was expensed in 2014 when we closed the landfill down. There's both a post closure fund for the lined section of the landfill, the hill, and then the unlined side of the landfill, that's more of the flat area. And those are fully funded, and I believe we have about 19 years remaining on that, and then we'll reevaluate at that point if we can lay it to bed or not.
When we say transfer in, what fund are we transferring money from into this?
Yeah, that's from the operating fund.
Yeah.
It's
It's part of our expenses for the regular landfill. We said we transferred 11.5 million, and that's spread over, like you said, the headquarters.
Yeah, so that's over the ELF fund or equipment fund, the post-closure fund and the closure fund. If we were to ever have run short on dollars in Tenant Way, then we would transfer into that one as well.
Yep. That's it for solid waste.
Here's a oddball question, and probably one we've never thought about. We were at the CEDC meeting on Thursday, and it was I found it fairly sobering to hear about our power structure and the struggles that could be, sounds like it's a pretty big rock headed our way that could be a problem. We generate, so I think about that and I wonder, do we generate enough up there that we could power a big gym pack and battery and run our own and get us off the grid and put that gas to use?
Yeah, so that was the general idea behind the PUD project a few years ago. We were looking at a gas to energy project that would have um, gave power to about 4,500 homes, pretty much the entire Toutle Valley. We did run into some issues on regulation side, and that ultimately
Well, yeah,
stopped the
shipping it
project.
down to them because they wanted it scrubbed every so, but I'm just talking about keeping it at the landfill,
Yeah.
powering our own operation.
I think we would be held to the same requirements for any genset put in there that would utilize landfill gas.
Interesting.
Yeah, once we have these vertical wells installed, I think we'll reevaluate
I
our,
know
reevaluate our gas flows and see what are available options to us for better utilization of our gas.
it. I don't know, it was just a thought, it just,
Yeah.
we just burn that off as such a waste that why couldn't we just power our own genset and take us off the grid? You'd
Well,
basically be saving some of that.
Yeah, exactly. There's more than enough power up there to do it.
Yeah.
If you could get it to the conversion.
Cause the way they're talking, and you guys may have seen it different, but some of these big places coming in are gonna have to have their own power and
A lot
I
of the
think
data
these
centers.
many nuclear things that they're developing is probably gonna be the ticket for a lot of these. And so then I'm thinking, well, why can't we use what we already have up there?
Yeah,
Well-
we're looking at brownouts is what we're looking at
Yeah.
in the near future, as ridiculous as that sounds.
And I think the writing's on the wall also with regards to, I don't know if you guys read that article that was sent to us about the 5G and the 6G network and how they're taking the control and the power away from local authorities, and they're just doing what they want and saying, you can't stop us from putting this stuff in, even in your area. At some point, I feel like the government's just gonna say, this is the way we're gonna do it, and you don't have a say in it.
Well, and I brought up that committee that the governor has and Eastern Washington is fighting some of this because they're just taking land and putting these things in without any overview
Yeah.
from the deal. So that's exactly right. It's just gonna get worse.
Well, and you got large companies that with all the data centers, Amazon, yeah, I can't think of the other three that I want to name, Microsoft. Those people got enough money, they're gonna build their own power sources and it's gonna be isolated for their use. And they may put it on the
Yeah.
grid as a resource, but they're gonna dedicate that money or that resource to themselves first. And, regulate it and run it. I mean, once they get it up and running. But they've got the money to do it and ignore anything and everything else because of the need for AI, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
So interesting. I don't know who the question would go to, but it might be something just to ask at some point in time.
Yeah, like I said, once we get those new vertical wells up and running, we'll evaluate the gas loads and maybe we can have some better options.
Yeah.
It does beg the question, though, when the government tells us they're looking for clean alternative sources of energy, when you come up with one, why it's just overburdened with regulation and red tape to the point to where you can't do it.
Yeah.
same way with trying to build a house.
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't matter what it is, regulations are strangling us.
Anyway, a little bit of a rabbit hole, but I just found that meeting interesting and in fact, I found it quite sobering.
Well, did you?
I was thinking, man, I need to put a gym pack at my place right away.
Did you watch any of the discussion and the debate going on over the tariffs with the United States Supreme Court, whether those are a tax or not?
I didn't watch that.
And that whole argument went completely sideways with if tariffs are a tax, why aren't every single government agency who puts regulations in place, why aren't those taxes? If they put a regulation in that you got to pay to meet that regulation, why isn't that a tax? So I thought that was really interesting. That ought to upset a lot of people.
Well, a lot of us had thought they were backdoor taxes. They just didn't want to call them
That's
taxes.
exactly right.
Yeah.
What I found interesting about that meeting also was that when he said that there was no science used to coming up with the dates that they came up with
Exactly.
everybody going.
No science
"This
used.
is
It's
just- We gotta be 5 years before this date.
Yeah, yeah.
That's.
Why is Oregon 40 and we're 45? Because they want to be 5
wanna
years
be
ahead of
5
us.
years ahead.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And there's no science behind any of it.
Mm-mm.
I think back 40 years ago in the Washington Public Power Supply System, and we had these projections of power requirements we're gonna need. They had that hockey stick that said we were gonna be in blackouts by the early or mid 80s. And then defaulted on nuclear power on those plants. They had 26 of them on the design table in the Pacific Northwest. We were gonna become the energy
Yeah.
backbone of the United States.
I think it's like, I agree that it's like Commissioner Rader says that we'll find alternatives and people are finding alternatives, but then they regulate it so bad and try to not let you do it, that it's crazy. Anyway,
Yeah, amen. Anyway is right.
big rabbit hole. Sorry, Sean.
Any additional questions on solid waste budgets? Thank you.
Thanks. When do we expect Public Works? Are they outside or are they? Okay. Moving, I see Bailey on these two reappointments to mosquito control. Is mosquito control coming in or is that just? Okay, well, that's what the question was. If they're coming in to explain what they do, then that's fine. We'll leave it alone. Want to take a recess till they show up? Okay. Okay, back from recess. Susan, I'm hearing you need an executive session? For property acquisition, 15 minutes. Okay, we will. You got anybody coming online for that or it's just? Okay. Okay. Okay, we will adjourn to executive session.
The board is extending the executive session for a period of 5 minutes until 10:14 a.m. The board is extending the executive session for a period of 5 minutes until 10:18 a.m.
Okay, back from executive session, no decisions rendered. Mike, are we turning this over to you?
Good morning, Commissioners. Mike Moss, Public Services Director. On your agenda today, the first item is from Susan on some easements that she needs signatures from the chairman of the board.
Good morning, Susan Eugenius, County Engineer. So I'm bringing us back to one of our favorite projects, our South Cloverdale project. As part of the process, we had to obtain temporary construction easements, and the WashDOT rules is you have to put a sunset on them. And our sunset is December 31st. So we are busily working on re-signing all of our temporary construction easements. There are 20 total, and I have with me today the first 6. All of them have agreed to renew their temporary construction easement. And I am here asking for permission for the chairman to sign these.
Boy, that was a big project just to get them all the first time.
Yes, so we're making progress. We have our first 6. The fire department has theirs and they're taking it to their board at the next meeting. And
Did we not have one property owner there that dragged their feet or are they
Yes.
gonna be okay?
I believe, I have not heard otherwise.
Okay.
I have full confidence that Anna is getting this done for me.
Good luck. Good to go.
We all good with that? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So we have to put an end date on these things when we first do them?
Yes, and because we ended up
That-
finally getting stuff and then getting delayed again, yeah, they all
that new
expire.
rules Put on us.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
What's the new end date?
Let me look. December 31st, 2027.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. All right, so just kind of wanted to do some emerging road projects. Kind of, you're going to see some changes in the 6-year plan that we brought forward earlier. The first one is related to that letter that you received, we all received last week from on Butte Hill Road. So the Butte Hill Road slide, so we received a letter last week from Daniel Howard and the Weyerhaeuser Timber Company. Give you a little history of that. You were handed out the beautiful picture of the slide. So this slide has been progressing. So we as a staff decided that instead of doing this study and an expensive repair, it's neck down to 1 lane. We would go ahead and put a forest style gate out there because all of the properties beyond this point are all in timber holding. So we put a forest style gate up there. We daisy chained all the locks together so that the property owners beyond there can still access their property when they need to, but we won't have the general public driving back there. So last week, we received that letter from Daniel Howard and Warehouse Timber Holdings requesting that we move ahead with a repair on that. We have not started any investigations of this property, but my staff's guess of a repair of this project will be in the neighborhood of $2 million. There are currently no residents out there. There's approximately 430 acres of land that is in designated forest land under RCW 8433. So I was kind of looking for direction on where in the priority you would like this project to land.
No residences,
No residences, which is why we made that decision.
just property owners behind that, on that, that are timber, commercial type stuff?
All commercial timber. Mr. Howard has discussed in the past developing his into residential land, but does not have a formal application in.
When he does that, what does that do to a situation like this? What responsibility do we have?
That is a very good question on how to keep the public road open. It does, we could put some kind of narrow lane out there, like a 1-lane bridge. Those happen in locations. The difficulty with this location, as you can see, is it's going around a curve. So it's a little harder to do a 1 lane with a stop controlled. And that would work if it stopped sliding into us and we didn't go below the 1 lane. I've been told by attorneys if we cut off access completely, like if the road went completely, that would potentially be considered a property take by not continuing to provide the access. But I'm not an attorney. One of those would have to give that exact answer.
If there's no property owners out there now, other than the timber holdings, what justified putting a 2-lane road out there in the first place?
It was probably an old timber road that became a public road. The public right-of-way actually goes beyond the end of where we have a turnaround today. There's undeveloped right-of-way out there. that back in the day, I don't know what day, but 1800s, early 1900s, this was a public road that went further than where it is today.
Okay, I guess I can only imagine how many miles of old logging roads that we have that are not paved. So I'm still not understanding, why did we pave this one to begin with if there's no property, no houses out there? Interesting, okay. So even if we cut into that hillside and put in a 2-lane road, the slide potential right there is still not gonna go away.
No, that slide potential is not going to go away. Moving it over is a potential when we were looking at alternatives for a solution. But because it was just timberland beyond here, we made that decision to go with the gate.
I'm in favor of just putting in a gate.
That works for me.
Yeah. I think the gate, consider what they're doing there is, I think that's adequate. I think we're good.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't make this one of my priorities. May have a couple other items that are also emerging projects. I had a customer in last week talking about Fallert Road. Excuse me. There's a narrow section on that, so I'm gathering some information on that as a potential project to add to the 6-year plan.
what is that?
Fallert off of Kalama River Road.
Okay.
And then we have, I was going to beef up my slide studies to try and start them moving forward. So this past year, we had a study done out on Kalama River Road. We have various locations in the county where we maintain the roads as gravel for various reasons in various locations. So we've been discussing doing a methodical going from location to location and doing a study to determine if they're fixable. So we've started with Kalama River Road, milepost 13 and a half. So we just received that study results. I love reading geotech reports. There's all kinds of fun Dr. Seuss words in there. But the study basically concluded that area is multiple slides, and the smallest of them potentially could be fixed for $2 million. So we were going to add that on the 6-year plan. Actually, it's already on there. I was just going to fix the dollar amount. But there's a line, if you guys, there's catch-alls at the end of a 6-year plan. There's one that says slide studies. I was going to actually start using that one and start hitting some of the other locations that we maintain in gravel to see if it's worthwhile a benefit cost to repair them. So the geotech studies are about $100,000 to $150,000. They go out, they do some borings, they put inclinometers and groundwater monitors in them, and they'll monitor it for 1 to 2 years to determine how much it's moving. And then based on that information, the depth, how much it's moving, whether or not there's a cost-effective way to fix it so that we're not always out there. Lane road's an example. We're out there graveling or we're paving. There are locations in this county where there's 1 to 2 feet of asphalt in locations. So I was looking at starting to move forward on doing more of these studies so we can cut some of this maintenance because there are locations where our supervisors are out. So depending on the year, it can be monthly replacing the gravel.
You already accounted for it in your budget.
Yes.
Yeah.
That one that you're talking about, is that the one where they have the cones and it's narrowed down to 1 lane because it's washed out on the one side at the 13-mile mark on Kalama?
Yes, yes,
That's bad.
yeah.
If something like that does give way and we have all those residents that are trapped up above that, would we have to work something out with Weyerhaeuser about using their cutoff road?
Yeah, we have the bypass. We have an agreement with them for emergencies. We go out and we sign it and we grade it for consideration of the use, because we have two different routes that we use with Weyerhaeuser out of Kalama River Road, depending on where the blockage is.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have another, hang on a second. On the previous discussion about putting the gate up, does that road go all the way through from, is it accessible from both sides?
It is not.
Okay.
Does it lead into the Weyerhaeuser road system?
I believe it does. It may, because it's not that far from Little Kalama River Road.
So who will have keys to that gate? Just the landowners?
Just the landowners, Public
Beyond it.
Works, and I believe the gas company, because the gas line's up there also.
Do we have to provide keys to any emergency management type of reaction? Fire,
So the fire department, they use the well-known lock cutter if they need to go out there. But it does have the
They have the
standard Public Works
universal
key,
key.
the universal key, yes. But we do have the standard Public Works key on there also, that I know most people have the key, the emergency responder.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Underneath my spot.
Morning, Savannah Clement, Public Services. So this morning I'm here to talk again about the Clean Buildings Performance standards that the Washington State enacted a couple years ago. I had talked about a grant that we had received, and so I have the grant paperwork, but I just wanted to give you guys some background information on what the program is and our mandatory requirements. We actually have 2 Tier 1 buildings, which is all based upon square footage, which that document kind of goes over. And we have different deadlines that we have to meet based off of this state, I guess, mandate requirement. And thankfully, we will be in compliance with our first scheduled compliance date, which is June of 2027, because of the Hall of Justice project. And this grant specifically gives us up to 85 cents per square foot for our energy audits that we've completed there. So these are, this audit we've already done, we've already paid for. And so we're looking just to get reimbursement from the state on this. And just to give you guys a heads up, we have one more building that we'll be working towards, which is this building. To meet the standards. It's also considered a Tier 1 because of the square footage. We actually have another year on top of that, so we'll be trying to meet that by 2028. So just be kind of working behind the scenes on that. And essentially, what the state's trying to do is they've recognized that commercial buildings of over a certain square footage are like the second most contributor to greenhouse gas emissions in the state. And so what they're trying to do is kind of, I guess, force, for lack of a better word, people to kind of get in line with recognizing their energy use and trying to get plans and practices in place to curb that. And so that's kind of just a nutshell of what the requirement is, and we'll continue to try to meet it, at least by providing audits and plans.
Could
And-
you educate me on how a building emits greenhouse gas?
Yeah, exactly.
I could try. Do you want me to?
Just a question.
Yeah, that's a good one.
He's pointing out the nonsense here.
And it's not just government buildings. I mean, we're talking any commercial multifamily building in the state. So it's a huge project and undertaking.
Wait till they come after our homes.
Oh, the reason I'm here though, again, to talk about it is because we don't have meetings for the next couple weeks. And I would like to get this signed so we can get reimbursed sooner than later. We've been working on this grant since 2024, so about a year ago, and we've got it in my hands. And I'm hoping to get board approval to just agree to the grant, which we've already done, so that we can get reimbursed. And I will put it through the consent agenda so that it's on record. So that's my request today. And it does have all three commissioners' signatures on it. So if I can get your approval to give this to Bailey to distribute and get it back, that's okay?
Yeah.
Do I need a motion for that? It's accepting grant funds for 98,000. Do you want to-ish? Could be more.
We want to do it
Do you,
just to be safe.
just to be safe? I'm not,
Sure.
okay.
Make a motion to approve grant funds for the clean house or the clean building performance standard.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the Clean Building Performance Grant. Just in case I got any hands raised, I don't see anything. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
I'll bring it to Bailey. Thank you.
Commissioner Rader, next time he calls you, then let's keep that question. Yeah.
All right, number 4 on the list today is gun range. So I'm sitting here with Chief Spencer from the Sheriff's Office. Give you guys a little cheat sheet, some information on there. We'll go through it a little bit here, but our current agreement with the vendor out or at the gun range ends on December 31st of this year. Public Works went out to RFP earlier this year and had one responded. So we're here today to discuss possibly the transition from the third party to a county operated facility, the joint effort between the Sheriff's Office and the Parks Department under Public Works. So I'll go through this front sheet a little bit, then we can have some discussion, but really going to try to focus on our customer service at the gun range, including hours of operation, probably very limited to start with for us to get our feet on the ground and see exactly what is entailed out there at the gun range. Work with the high schools at the trap range. That's very limited use right now, but really a lot of potential to use that trap range a lot more in the future. Talking with the Sheriff's Office about potential other revenue options, additional usage at the 100-yard range, but also the 300-yard range. And then, maybe down the road, either this early next year or the year after, consider a second RFP. Go out and maybe revamp the RFP once we have a little more knowledge of working that facility ourselves. So worked with a lot of different departments, including, of course, the Sheriff's Office and Public Works, but had discussions with RISC, the PA's office, OFM, and also the state RCO to make sure we're all on the same page moving forward, because it is a fairly large transition going from a volunteer-based group to a county-ran operation out there. And all seem to be on board to move forward with this transition. And the last item on here is just the budget. Currently we spend out 50,000 a year on just expenses. And we've had that discussion before with you in the past. Really, the additional dollar amount to run this would be a general fund dollars. We don't know. It all depends on the hours of operation. If we're open 1 day a week, which would be minimal, it's a certain amount. If we want to be open 2 to 3 days a week, it's going to cost a lot more. We did have the back page talks just a draft schedule for 2026. We tried to put some hours of operation in to see just a quick budget line item. $80 an hour if we go through the Sheriff's Office as a range officer. It costs us about $60,000 approximately per year, because they have, I believe, 4 or 5 range officers, 4, that would be able to come out and work certain shifts with the Parks Department. So today we're really kind of looking for agreement with the board if we want to move forward with the transition to a county-ran facility. The second page is just we have a longer list of this, but some operational items we're looking for. Of course, the top one, the RCO requirement is 8 hours a month we have to be open, which we are planning on being more than that. And just different things from policies and procedures, point of sale system, janitorial service, staffing levels, hours of operation. I think you can see the laundry list of there. But things that we'll be working on in the next few months to make sure that we get this thing going in the right direction. Customer service is a very big key for us to make sure we have repeat customers out there and have a good shooting experience for people who come out, and work with the local gun shops to make sure that they know it's a well-ran operation.
So when we have 8 hours a month, that's 8 hours open to the public.
That's
not
correct.
As the department's using it, okay.
That's correct, yes. And the third page, draft hours of operation, like I said, I just we put together as a team just a basic starting point. This could change easily in the first month without being out there, but really not being open until January 24th. We really want to give a few weeks to try and figure out the operations before we open to the public on the 24th. But January, February, and March being open just on Saturdays, 10 to 3, and then start building up after that. So the numbers in parentheses there, that 10, 20, 20 is just hours per month we'd be open to make sure we're past the RCO requirement. And then, April through August, Saturdays and Sundays, ramp it up for the hunt season, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and then tone it back down into the month of December. Once again, a true draft, just so we could base what we might need, how many range officers and how many hours we would need for a minimum schedule. Could certainly change, and I expect this to change quite drastically once we get our boots on the ground, so.
So right now, the cost that I see on here, we don't pay for a range officer now, right?
No, being a volunteer-based group out there, we do not.
Right, and then what days are they open right now compared to what this is gonna do?
They are currently open 6 days a week, closed on Mondays for maintenance.
And then what does this schedule do to the school functions and educational systems that use that?
That's what we'll have to work through with the schools to see how many days a week they're shooting trap out there, and also the hunter education side of it, yes. That would be additional hours. Unless the trap houses or the schools, I don't know if they have their own range, that their coach from the schools are qualified to be a range officer, that they just take, have a key and they go do their shoots out there without having to be someone from the sheriff's office with them. Those are questions that we're going to ask a lot here in the next month or two.
I believe how it's currently run, the trap range is separate, so they have to have a separate RSO there for anybody that's using the trap range. So they'd have an RSO at the regular range, and then they'd have an additional RSO at the trap range. Now, I believe that's the vendor's current rule. I don't think that's a hard and fast established rule.
So with the different departments involved, we talked about doing things to increase revenue. Would that be parks? I'm assuming the sheriff's department's not gonna be involved in having turkey shoots and that kind of stuff.
No, but they certainly be involved. I know, visiting with their staff, there's certainly opportunity to be able to utilize the different parts of the range more, and maybe looking at the dollar amount we also charge some of these groups. It sounds like they're quite busy out there. There might be a chance for a small increase on that side, but yeah, turkey shoots and that stuff would certainly come from the Parks Division, working with the sheriff's office, especially depending on what kind of requirements there are to run that side of it. Yes.
I guess my first impression looking at this is a considerable more cost for a whole lot less service to the public.
Yeah, going from a volunteer-based group to a county-ran facility, that is a true statement. Our goal long-term, this is a very short-term plan to get us going. Our long-term plan is to get revenues up and expenses back down, and depending on how we do that with RCOs or shooting officers, range officers on site. Do we get more people trained? Is there a volunteer group that can come in? Is there volunteers that currently work for the third party that would be willing to work for us also on a volunteer basis? Those are questions that we need to ask. But you're correct that the service is going to be a lot less hours of operation at a more cost to the general fund. We're certainly aware of that. The other option would be to sign another agreement. Another option would be to close the range down and pay back RCO dollars. The other option is a short-term agreement and go back to RFP and try to revamp the RFP. So there's other options on the table. We're looking at the one for a transition purpose, but we're certainly open to discussion if he has other thoughts.
I I don't know that going out to RFP is gonna do anything for us. If I'm a business owner and I'm looking at the books that this place has and the fact that it's being subsidized $20,000 a year, I'm not interested. So if we're gonna go back to RFP, I think we need to do that after we find out if we can increase the revenues and decrease the expenses. And we get nothing if we close it down and just pay back the money. There's no benefit to us to that. So long-term, hopefully we can come up with a plan that will increase revenue and get us to a point where we can put it out to RFP.
There is a large shooting sports revenue base out there. There's some up north and there's some down south, but we don't really have anything in this area. And so there's potential for that type of revenue to come in, just given the other entities that are out there that are hosting events, or they need space. And that's one of the things that's hard to find is space to put on those events. And so this would be I think a prime area for that.
I think it's just been an underutilized situation for us due to the circumstances.
It has. And some of that is maybe the rules that have been put in place, how it's used, and that it has to be open X amount of days or hours and things like that. So there's a lot of things that we probably don't know about it yet, but I think there's a lot of potential for growth there, and income, revenue, tourism dollars, anything like that.
I think the biggest one is number one on your focus list.
Agree.
I'm in favor of switching.
I guess I have a minor reservation, and that is, and taking into account the current situation, I can't help but think that for half this much money, if we're gonna put that kind of money into the range, and to offer it to a volunteer group to help keep a volunteer group running it, not necessarily the same one that's there. I don't know if anybody else would step in to do that. But I am apprehensive about cutting the services down from 5 days a week to 1 day a week or 2 days a week.
We'd hope to open up more. That the plan is not to keep it closed that many days per week. Depending on volume, right now they have about, I believe, 5,000 to 6,000 unique visitors, or visitors per year, not unique, but visitors per year at the gun range. Our goal is to certainly increase that number. Of course, with the reduced hours, it's going to be challenging to do that. But like, once again, the mock schedule is really just a draft to say, this is where we're at. We might have so much volume and so many shooters out there, 6 months of this, we're open 5 days a week. And the revenue's coming in. I don't want to overestimate it. I didn't put revenues on here because we really don't know what we're going to be up against revenue wise. And we pretty much know expense wise what it's going to cost to have a range officer out there. But do we double the volume of shooters? Do we triple? Do we stay the same? Expanded hours, do we have more shooters come out? We don't know that quite yet. And so I don't see it as a long-term, this sheet of paper of what we're going to look like a year from now or even 6 months from now. I just had to get something in writing to put in front of you today rather than me just talking, but just show you a draft of what we're looking at hours-wise. But that could drastically change, where the service hours, the customer service is going to be number of hours they could shoot may be equivalent to what we are currently there at now. But either way, it will be, right off the bat, it will be a cost to the general fund. There's no way around that.
Well, the $60,000 range officer cost is based on what, 1 day a week?
It's on the full amount of hours on that third page. The third page where in the parentheses of being open 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week throughout the year, estimate that out. That's the cost of the range officer for the year. Which would be could be offset by, like I said, more shooters coming out. There is tons of potential at that site, and like to see where we're at, but once again, this is a
Yeah.
board decision, not a Public Works or Sheriff's Office decision.
There's also potential for increase, the agencies that we have on contract right now using the law enforcement side. It's, that range is full, for the majority of the year. It's difficult to, get scheduled and get in there on short notice. So it's pretty well used by all the agencies that we currently have. And so there's potential for that to move over to the other range as well on certain days of the week where agencies have an MOU with the county to use that facility for their training as well. And the amount of contracts could grow as well if we pushed it out. Right now, we haven't really pushed it out because we're kind of at capacity the way it is now, but there's tons of other agencies I know in the area that are looking for places to go. And so that potential is there as well.
If we close it down, what do we have to pay back? How much?
Talking to RCO is about $750,000. Correct, Sean? Last number I heard, maybe things have gone off the list.
So we are waiting for a new number. The original build out looks to have fallen off the 10-year requirement, so we may have a lower value. We're gonna inquire on that if we want to go that way.
Originally, it was 750.
Originally, we're looking about $750,000.
And so who would be responsible for janitorial services if we do this? Because automatically you're gonna have some cleanup that's gonna go along with
Yep,
this.
it'd be probably the Parks Division. It would be the Parks Division
At what cost?
during their normal 40-hour work week. It wouldn't be an additional cost there. They just schedule it when they do their rounds. We'd add it on there. When they go between Harry Gardner, Riverside. And if we want to, we can extend this discussion if you don't want to make a decision today and we have more discussion the next time we meet next week, or
Seems we can stay status quo and we know what that is. We've had quite a few years under status quo and we know what that looks like, or we can try something different to build out there. So we got two options, right?
yes, correct.
And if we try this and it doesn't work, then we're back to finding somebody running it, or we
Yes,
pay RCO back and shut it down.
yes. Or not, would it be shut down, Sean? If you do pay RCO, it'd still be open as a range, but it'd be
Probably just wouldn't have public, right?
If we were to pay RCO back, we wouldn't have the restrictions that come with the grant terms. We could still reopen it at any time.
So would the RCO amount be the full amount or is it depreciate over the time?
If we were to close it, we would have to pay back the full value of grants that are still within that 10-year period. Savannah brought up a good point that grant system is pretty competitive and it may impact any future grants if we were looking to expand that shooting range in the future, utilizing the RCO grant program as well.
Just on the gun range or any grants in that program?
Ooh. We don't think they're supposed to affect others.
But they do.
So do we want to give them a chance at something new or stay status quo?
I'm good for it.
Give them an opportunity?
I'm flipping a coin here.
in a perfect world, we thought we'd have 4 or 5 people turn in proposals and we wouldn't be sitting here with you today. It wasn't the goal of Public Works or Sheriff's Office to be asking to run a gun range.
Yeah, but like I said, when you look at the financials, nobody's gonna pick that up under the current circumstances.
Yeah, and I agree with your statement that if you turn it into what it potentially could be revenue wise, then you would probably generate more interest. But it would have to be. Because right now, the only books show X amount of years of not a lot of generated income. And so you have to show that it can generate something. And I think it can if it's run correctly.
Well, and the trend over the last couple of years is the number of shooters has been declining.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a indication of less gun owners.
Oh, no, I
I
don't
think
either.
there's other
I
circumstances.
think it's number one on your focus.
Yes.
What do you want to do?
I'd give them an opportunity to improve it is where I'm kind of leaning.
Okay. Let's do it.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate your support. We'll give you constant feedback and updates as we go along and give you
Yeah. I think-
updated revenues
I think,
and
Mike, I'd hold the leash pretty short and,
understand.
yeah,
Yes, great. Thank you.
well, thank you for working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where is mosquito board here? Hey. Brad, do you mind if we take, I think we have one that'll be really quick and I don't want to have the gentleman have to sit here forever, mosquito board. I mean, you don't have to get up. We'll just put them over here. Are you okay with that? Okay. We got two people that looking to be reappointed to mosquito board and we tend to bring them in and they kind of tell us what mosquito board does. Yeah. There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Michael McCaig Foster, Program Manager, Calais County Mosquito Control District.
And it looks like these, well, I'll probably never say these names. Andriy Boyko,
Yes,
and I know Claire.
yes. Claire's been on the board for 4 years now, since 2022, and 2 of those she served as secretary. She actually just got elected president if she's to be reappointed. So it'd be really awkward for me going into next year if my president suddenly wasn't on the board.
Yeah.
No. But they both do a great job. Claire especially, I interface with her often with her position as secretary. So she's always a huge advocate for myself and the staff when we have board meetings, but we also don't have a lot of board meetings, so that's okay.
And you're good with both these people?
Yes, sir.
Can you give us a real brief deal, kind of overview of what mosquito district does?
Oh, so what we do is we try to make the county space more livable by going out and finding mosquito breeding sources and attempting to manage them before the mosquitoes emerge to either A, spread disease, or B, just be general nuisances. And then we also take any complaints that the public may have when there's mosquitoes plaguing them. So this involves a lot of field work where we'll go out and we'll find swamps, even something small like a backyard pond or bird bath can be a pervasive mosquito habitat. We also attempt to educate the public. This was our first year going to the Cowlitz County Fair and the Castle Rock Fair this year, after a couple years away from the Cowlitz County Fair. Let me see. We also do adulticiding, which is basically we drive around with a truck with a huge can of Raid on the back if the mosquitoes are bad enough. But ultimately our goal is to just make the county like a livable space because a lot of it is huge mosquito habitat. So
Any questions from you guys?
None for me.
We all good with these 2 reappointments?
Yeah.
Okay. Appreciate your time. Thanks for coming in.
not a problem. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. And we have an executive session at 11. let's try and get through this.
Okay. Would hand them out. Would be more impressive that way. Good morning, Sheriff Brad Thurman. We're here to talk about our storage building, which has kind of been a 6-year project we've been trying to make happen. What you see before you, I don't know if you've seen that, but this, we went to bid. And this is a 60 by 100 foot storage building. And then there's an additional 16 by 60 lean-to. And it's going to be multi-purpose. The lean-to portions for the fairgrounds to store some equipment. The rest of the building would be divided into 2 parts. One would be our evidence storage for vehicles we have to keep long-term. The other part would be to store some of our, I guess, high-ticket vehicles that we have, a Bearcat for the SWAT team, a couple boats, mobile command posts, and these are, I guess, vehicles and things we keep for probably 20 plus years, so we want to keep them inside and maintain those. And currently, those, I guess, big ticket items are spread out different locations with Public Works. At least 4 locations I know of, we have these vehicles stored, which we appreciate Public Works allowing us to do that. But the plan is to try to get this under one roof, one location, worked with the fairgrounds to find a location to do this and make this happen. One part of this, the evidence storage part of that, currently we're paying 2 private storage fees. It's $500 a month that we're paying to keep these vehicles in storage. When I first became sheriff, I think we had about 8 vehicles, and we've been able to whittle that down now to that we're just running 2. An example of one case, we were able to get a release last year. We had 1 vehicle for 18 years. It was on a murder case, and prosecutor, we really have to maintain evidence in those cases. Things can come up over the years, appeals, things overturned, and they have to be prepared as long as there's a defendant and somebody alive to present, go back to trial and present a case. So that's an extreme example of one case we had to, like I said, 18 years we were paying for this vehicle. This would allow us to keep bringing those in-house and not have that outside payment portion. When we went to bid, this low bid came in at $522,000. And it's in the city limits of Longview with various fees, stormwater fees and permits. It's going to push that to about $600,000 to make this happen. So I know the board had allocated $450,000, and we're here to, I guess, come up with some financing to hopefully make this happen and get to the $600,000. And I think we had some ideas, and Kathy, I think, well, Chairman Dahl had mentioned something recently, and Kathy looked into that and may have a funding source.
Yeah, I had Kathy Funk Baxter, Finance Director. I had looked at the Rural Public Facilities Fund that we have, and we've committed for this year plus some future disbursements. And after that, we have left about $300,000. And as far as from a rural public facility standpoint, I feel very comfortable that the interest earnings on this account could be utilized for this facility.
Well, the interest earnings on the
Yeah,
account?
interest earnings.
Okay. And we have sufficient interest earnings to cover that?
Yes, we do.
150 or whatever?
Yes.
So does this building end up insulated and heated?
Currently, no, that's not part of the bid at this point.
If
There would be electrical, but I think that's really the only,
if you're gonna have evidence storage, I would think it'd have to be insulated and heated. to keep-
well, the evidence is vehicles. It'd be vehicle evidence storage, so just the vehicles themselves, so.
Okay.
Yeah, just got this saying, we do have other types of evidence in other places in the Hall of Justice that are climate controlled. But just for vehicles, they currently aren't really heated or where they're at now in private storage.
Okay.
So we currently have already budgeted the 450 out of the capital projects. And then we're talking about making up that difference with the interest.
Yeah, supplementing it with the rural public facilities fund.
When we had our budget meeting, the interest that we were, or the interest that you're referring to, was that interest was used in coming up with the number that we had our deficit in the general fund, or is this a different account?
No, this interest earned on the public facilities fund, all the collections, sales tax collections, stays in this fund. It's never dispersed to the general fund. It stays within this same fund.
Yeah,
So that interest isn't going to affect the deficit that we talked about? Okay.
No.
I think that was interest off the opioid funds.
Yeah, the interest off the opioid funds in our budget is going to be utilized to help supplement those positions in OPD and public prosecuting attorney's office.
You've been talking about this building since before I was here.
At least 6 years.
Yeah.
We got into COVID and an architect got involved and price skyrocketed, so it doesn't appear that anything's getting cheaper.
Yeah, back when it was 200,000.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. It'll get it done and we have that there. I think I can live with that. We all good with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Tell Longview, don't raise your fees.
Good luck with that.
Okay. We have an executive session.
Yes, Marissa Hutchison, Risk Management. We're requesting 15 minutes to review a claim.
15 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm reading here potential litigation, 15 minutes. Okay. We will adjourn to executive session. Thanks for letting us.
The board is extending the executive session for a period of 10 minutes until 11:33 a.m.
How are you?
Good,
to
how
see
are you?
Yeah.
Nice to see you. I understand you're the candy bar.
I am.
Yes.
If you're short here, there's one here.
I'm feeling a little weak.
Oh.
Did I get a nasty gram from?
On your phone or before that, or during that, No Kings protest?
No, I
I had a
don't.
lady call and leave
Oh.
a.
Oh, yeah, I did.
On my
I
phone.
did.
Yeah.
I did. I didn't even get through the whole message on it.
Oh, yeah, I think I might have saved it on my.
Yeah.
I listened to it, I'm going, yeah, come on down and see what peaceful protesting is all about, you hateful. Blah, 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 blah. What? We're gonna eliminate all of you people. But we're peaceful.
Oh, we're good? Okay, back from executive session, no decision rendered. Sean, are you running the show on this next one?
I'm going to facilitate an introduction.
Okay.
Sean Roy with Public Works. Today, we have a presentation from the Port of Kalama here. We have Eric in the room on a request for path and trail dollars. So I'll pass it over and then we can talk about that after.
Okay.
We appreciate it. And,
Is the green light on, Eric?
Bright green light.
there we go.
There we go.
Better?
Thank you.
All right. We appreciate your time. Thank you very much. I'm here to talk to you about path and trail funding and how potentially it could support a path and trail improvement and pretty major improvement that we're making at the Port of Kalama. So this is termed the Kalama Crossing. It's actually our pedestrian overpass that traverses 4 rail line and a pretty busy road from going from downtown Kalama to the waterfront in Kalama, Columbia River waterfront. Next slide, please. So top is all obviously before and bottom is part of the after. And this is a community improvement. This isn't a port economy improvement. This is a community economy and pedestrian improvement. Really, we've got this 1970 circa pedestrian overpass that is by no means ADA compliant. Certainly probably not code compliant for today's work. And it's a little treacherous. I mean, it's nice and sturdy. It's not going anywhere, but it has graded steps in it, which are a little disconcerting, and certainly doesn't allow for easy passage between the port waterfront and downtown Kalama. But it is the quickest way between downtown Kalama and the port waterfront. You know, back when this was put in the 70s, there really wasn't anybody that went across the railroad tracks. You know, there's a few people here and there, you go fishing or down to the marina or something like that, but no external out-of-town folks. These days, we have 700,000 people a year that visit our waterfront. And we're hoping to make a connection between those 700,000 people looking to experience Kalama and get them downtown and be able to extract some funding out of their wallets as well downtown. So we're hoping that this can spur the economy as well as help pedestrians. This is a $12 million project. As you know, with your projects, construction costs have increased dramatically in the last 5 years. This one's gone up $5 million since we first proposed it. And so we've been on the hunt for some additional funding to make up that delta in our budget. We do have a $2.25 million state appropriation to support the project. Next slide, please. So this is just an overview of the path, right? So you've got this, the way you could walk down to the port right now from downtown Kalama is a 2-mile path up an industrial route. And installing the pedestrian overpass makes it 0.2 miles rather than 2 miles. But that's not the only problem. Next slide, please. If you were to take that path, the 2-mile path that you will see on some of the parks and trail plans, you first have to go up what is west frontage, which is a 55-mile-an-hour, pretty much industrial road. You get to the Oak Street Bridge, which is the image on your left, which has a 2-foot, I can't really even call it a sidewalk. It's really not a safe path to walk across. And then if you get to the other side of Oak Street overpass, you head down the industrial path toward the industrial road toward the port, where there are no sidewalks or even shoulders, and industrial truck traffic and log handling that goes along that right fence line there. And if you look real close, or if you've been down there a lot, you see a lot of dents in that fence. Those are logs coming off the processing accidentally every once in a while toward that road. So it's just really not a safe way to go. Next slide, please. This is identified in the 2 trail maps I'm aware of that address our area. One is the City of Kalama Park and Trail System. These are kind of difficult to read. They're both a little, they're not made for this purpose, so I did my best to expand them. The red line, those are my additions to this work that signifies where the pedestrian bridge is. Both of these, you see, one, the City of Kalama system calls this a potential path for connection of trails, and the Six Rivers Trail Map also calls it potential. It, as I said, you know, I guess the potential improvement that could make that 2-mile route safe for pedestrians would be the reconstruction of a bridge, the reconstruction of several roads, and probably just cost prohibitive, unless there was some major damage that needed to be repaired. Next slide, please. So this is where we're trying to get to, the tourism and recreation area at the waterfront for the Port of Kalama. My screen just went off. Just that's all right. I can look up here on the. So it's all right. It's all right. So we have over 2 miles of very popular paths down at the Port of Kalama on the waterfront that we've developed over the last decade, almost 12 years now. And some with your support as well. So back in 2013, we had a little bit of support from this same funding stream to redo our marina. Next slide, please. So as I said, we had 701,000 visits in the last 12-month period. And this has been going up pretty dramatically. You see a 26% increase in visits over the last 5 years and a 19% increase in visitors. In addition to this, or included in this, are 20,000 cruise passengers that visit us per year. And American Cruise Lines, which is the primary cruise service there, is going to add 3 vessels to the Columbia River in the coming 3 years, which will add another 4,000 visitors to that mix. Now, the reason I pull out the cruise passengers separately is because they represent a very specific opportunity to take advantage of, you know, people who are looking to spend in Cowlitz County and in Kalama. And these are an older population, probably 70 is the minimum age on this population, and they're not going over that pedestrian overpass the way it sits now, and they're certainly not walking 2 miles down the industrial route to get there. So they don't really have a way to get downtown right now. And these are people with, I mean, I don't know if you've checked, but these are pretty expensive cruises. And so these are people with money, disposable income in their pockets, ready to spend, and we want to offer them that opportunity. So next slide,
Real
please.
quick, how do you guys tally 701,000 visits per year? How did you get to that number? What's the formula, or how do you count them?
Sure. So we have an application called Placer AI, and Placer AI is a cell phone data collection service that has an algorithm that projects visits and visitors, and a variety of other data as well, traffic and length of stay and time of day and all that kind of stuff. It's an excellent application, very accurate, we found, because we've measured it against specific events. Like it can measure down to a square foot or within 1 foot of accuracy on a polygon. So it's very accurate, and that's where those numbers come from.
So it doesn't count every log truck driver that comes down there.
Well, those numbers, you have to be there for more than 10 minutes in order to be counted in those numbers.
Have to be where?
Okay, so.
You're just on your side of the highway and you're south of Oak Street. Are you getting counted?
No, so the way the application works is I draw a polygon. No, it's not as simple as a rectangle, but it's basically I draw a rectangle, and everything, like I said, within 1 foot of accuracy on that rectangle is counted if you stay within that rectangle for more than 10 minutes.
That's what I want to know, is how big the rectangle is for you to get counted.
So the rectangle in this case is from the north end of the marina,
okay,
to down to about where the Ailes Point cabin is, which that represents what we consider our recreation area. So that would be the north to south boundary. Of course, the river is the west boundary. And then east would be roughly the rail.
Okay.
So that's what we consider our recreation area. So we feel very confident. It's people stopping there to see what's down there. It's not somebody driving through.
Okay, but somebody that comes in and stays for more than what, 10 minutes?
Yes.
And it counts them how often? Every hour? If
Nope.
the same person's there for 5 hours, does he get counted 5 times?
No, it also counts, it also, no, per day. So 701,000 people or 701,000 visits is the number of visits that happened, separate visits that happened. So they might have gone down to Vancouver for an hour and come back. That would count as 2 visits. But they do not, if they stay in that area, they don't get counted more than once in a day.
Okay.
So, and even multiple days. So if somebody were to stay at McMenamins for 3-4 days, that's still just 1 visit.
Okay.
And then there's also a duration of stay that comes with that data as well. So I can see, you know, is the average length of stay 1.5 hours or is it 25 minutes? And it tends to be in the over an hour.
So all of the employees at McMinimums and the port, they would get
Yes.
counted every day?
Yes, I get
Okay.
counted as a visitor every day.
Okay.
And I would say there are 12, I would say there's about 120 employees in that area on a daily basis. So I guess theoretically, you could take that 120 people out of a day. All right, next slide, please. Did I answer your question?
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
and those increases that you show there, that's just based on from 2019 to 25.
Correct.
Okay.
Actually, this app is a fairly new app, 6 years old, so there's not data that goes back past 19. Although I can vouch for the fact that before the improvements were done down in the port waterfront area, hardly anybody went down there, right? It was local people.
Fishing.
15, 20 people a day. I mean, there's probably more than that, I'm sure, but you know what I mean, nominal. Okay, this is a before and after, looking at this project from the south toward the north. Tried to match it up as best I could with the projected new facility. So you see that the new facility will not only traverse the railroad, but it will also traverse the Hendrickson Drive, which has become a pretty busy road. You know, the current overpass, as you see, drops on the east side of the road, so people still have to go across the road. So there's still an impediment, a safety issue, getting across there. We've done our best to mitigate that with lights and speed bumps, and we have notorious speed bumps, so you have to go slow.
That's why you got logs coming off.
We haven't advertised that piece.
Yeah.
Actually, well, nah, it doesn't, you're kidding, so it doesn't really matter, but log trucks don't go down in that area. The industrial traffic doesn't go down that road.
Can we go back 1 slide for a
Sure.
second? What accounts for from 2019, this considerable drop for 4 years?
That
3 years?
is the worldwide pandemic.
So 2020, and then recovering from COVID?
Yep.
Okay.
So the reason I provided 19 because it gives you a before COVID perspective.
Thank you.
So if, you can look at, statistics are whatever you want them to be, right? Whatever story you want to tell, and I'm just trying to tell the whole story, the truth with the statistics. So you can look at the 600,000 visitors or visits in 2019 and the 700,000 today, and you could probably assume that we would have gradually gone from 600 to 700 over that period of time. But COVID happens in 2020 and you do experience that dip and then recovery.
So when I look at those numbers and I see visitors is pretty stable, but the number of visits has gone up. That's just basically the same people, repetitive visits.
Yeah, so what you
To get
can, what-
counted?
yeah, so I think having a hard time seeing up there, but I think there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 350,000 visitors
Right.
in the last 12 months, where there's 700,000 visits. So the average is that people visit 2 times
Okay.
over the course of that year, so.
Okay.
So our project, the bid documents just went out last week, and bids are due on December 1st. Construction will start January of 2026, and we're approximating that it's going to end by the end of 2026. That will depend on a variety of things. It's a pretty complicated project. Whereas the old structure is definitely not ADA compliant, this is ADA compliant. It has an elevator on each side of the structure. And then it also has stairs on each side of the structure, but they're also switchback stairs. So they're, compliant with today's code, handrails and switchbacks. This is the primary reason why we are doing this is pedestrian safety and ease of use. For people to be able to access our port area and the downtown in a safe and comfortable fashion. That's the primary reason. I gave you the economic reason as well. We feel like that's a real close second, and certainly makes the case for doing this much better as far as we're concerned. We're an economic developer, so what we do needs to have that kind of impact. So the other piece about this project is that we're going to be adding over 100 spaces, 110 spaces of parking on the east side of the railroad tracks where there's currently no parking. And not only that, this gives us, so have any of you ever been to an event down at the Port of Kalama, or at least even driven by on the freeway when there's an event down there? Parking is just packed. When there's a couple thousand people down there for something, there's a parking issue. And so we've taking shuttle buses up to the school, let people park in the school parking lot, and there's a variety of things we've tried to do. This will allow us to relieve that issue of parking, because then people can park on the east side of the railroad tracks and comfortably get over down into our event area. Whereas right now, that's not an easy thing to do. Next slide, please. And then when it comes to this discussion, the regulation related to the Parks and Trail, I just wanted to make sure that I checked these boxes for you guys. I've already kind of talked about each of them. Public safety and trail plans are pretty straightforward. The comparative cost issue, this connection is something that needs to happen in order for either of the Kalama or the Six Rivers Trail plans to work. And the desire to be down at the Columbia waterfront in Kalama is strong. And so it's an attraction for people on those trails. Without this connection, that probably isn't going to happen for a very, very long time. So comparative cost, you're talking about millions and millions of, probably $30 to $40 million maybe for that road and bridge reconstruction that would need to happen around to take that other route. Just doesn't seem logical to me that will happen, at least in the foreseeable future. Anyway, so I see this as a pretty good investment for that purpose as well. Next slide, please. So I want to point out, I think some of you know this, but you have invested in the Port of Kalama before, and we are so very thankful for that investment. And when you do invest in the Port of Kalama, it means results. I mean, we produce results. So, these are the recent investments that you've made in Kalama, the bottom one being, McMenamin's Kalama Harbor Lodge, $500,000 for some ground improvements for that building. And, it was a $11 million investment between the port and McMenamin's that created 100 jobs. The Mountain Timber Market is more recent with another $500,000 investment. And it was a $19 million project that creates approximately 75 jobs ultimately. And then the newest one that you did invest in is our Spencer Creek Station, which is a $17 million project that will create approximately 100 jobs in that area. And so when you invest in us, you generally, it's a fairly small piece of our overall project cost. Your dollars are very largely expanded. The impact of those dollars becomes very large. And then this $12 million project I just put at the bottom there, so.
You're expecting that to generate another $500,000?
Yes.
Back to the area?
Hoping, so hope is what it is, right? It's very nebulous, it's very subjective, right? So we don't have a really good way of projecting what that actual economic impact will be. But what we do know are, one, the visits and the visitors that we have down at the waterfront that can't make it over there right now. 700,000 people a year of people there to spend money and experience things. So that's a pretty big indicator. And then we also have some previous economic feasibility study of both the Mountain Timber Market and the American Cruise Lines dock. And that was $500,000 just for the dock, just for the cruise passengers from the dock. So I think I've given a pretty conservative estimate of what that impact will be downtown.
So just putting a cruise line dock in has brought in $500,000 just in revenue from the people that take those cruises?
Well, it's more than that. It's that the projection of what those people would spend was around it was $450,000 a year. That's based on them having a place to spend it though. So they haven't spent that money at this point in Kalama. They bought a little bit at McMenamin's, or they bought a little bit at the market, but there's not a full, there's opportunity to gain from that potential. So.
If we can make it easier to get to that.
Exactly.
And the parking thing is also a big one. I know my family and I, sometimes we've gone down there when you guys have events and there's nowhere to park and we just don't go.
Yeah.
So that will add quite a bit also.
I grew up around there. I grew up in Kalama and I've seen the waterfront a lot in my days and I love it. And I stay away on those days because that's not the way I want to see the waterfront by trying to find a place to park like a mile away. So.
Yes, I'm sitting here thinking, many times as I've driven the highway and I've been down to the port, once you get to the east side of the tracks, how do you get to downtown Kalama?
Oh, it's just an
highway
easy
to get across.
It's just an easy, it's a sidewalk underneath the freeway.
Under the bridge, yeah.
It's a very wide.
That bridge, does that line up with on the other side with the overpass?
Yes, that's the pedestrian overpass originally was put in that place to align specifically with that walkway.
Okay.
So it is a direct marked walkway to that path to downtown. So you've got a couple 100 feet to downtown.
Okay.
Next slide, please. I think this last one is just, so, I can say I'm not really certain about what kind of funding you do contribute to trails and paths projects. So I put a number on here, but I will tell you that we're just appreciative of any support. If you're so inclined that you might give to the project. You know all the information now related to the project. And, again, we're just happy to receive support from Cowlitz County. So thank you for your consideration in any case. And I'm happy to answer any questions. You can put on the next slide, I guess.
This comes out, you're trying to explain that, you were explaining that fund that you guys set aside.
Right. So this would be out of the crest is for Path and Trails. This is a shave off of motor vehicle fuel tax. And we have approximately about $800,000 of uncommitted monies currently. Earlier in the year, you did commit about $70,000 to the City of Castle Rock Path and Trails. I don't believe we have anything else in the chute for funding. And we do have a spend.
How much
limit on
does
this.
it generate per year, Sean?
Yeah, so from the actual tax shave off, it's about $50,000. Most of our earnings that are currently in this are interest earnings that have compiled over the years.
So there's been a lot of money just sitting in there for quite some time.
Correct. So in 2007, we talked about this a little bit in the past. The board at that time directed to increase the shave off from the 0.42% to 2.5%. Looking back, it seems like that was in relation to Rails to Trails programs. We spent quite a bit of money in 2018 on that, but nothing has ever come to fruition on it. And so we don't have a spend plan on it. In the last 10 years, outside of the Rails to Trails program, most of it's been to the City of Castle Rock for their Six River Trail program.
Yeah.
And then prior to that, as Eric alluded, in 2013 was the next previous spend on that, and that was to the port for the Marine Drive, West Marine Drive.
So the money that's in that account is earmarked only for this type of stuff.
Yes, just for Path and Trails. Once it goes in there, that's what it's there for.
Okay.
We can always make a request to reduce the shave off in the future if we'd like to use other funding, but that's where it is currently.
I think the little bit I've seen in when we have used it, it's for a project that, to me, brings some pretty good benefit to the public. This one, I think, will generate some economic benefit. I'm not sure about the Castle Rock one, but it is a benefit to the public. So,
And as Eric did say in his slide, there were 3 requirements, the first one being public safety, the second one being the cost of the trail compared to the need or probable use, and then the third, that it was included in a parks plan. And so those were the 3 requirements for the spend of these dollars.
yeah. I don't know what the numbers will be, but I think the downtown will see some benefit. I actually think that the Riverside will see some benefit, like your car show. People probably travel.
Yes,
over
absolutely.
that way too. So, I'm kind of okay with this. I don't know where everybody else stands. Yeah,
I'm good.
yeah.
Eric, as far as the construction goes, are you gonna remove the old one and then build it? Or you build it next to it? What's that gonna look like with the railroad that's active underneath that thing?
Right. It's a tricky project. And there's power lines real close above it too. So you don't have much space to lift this massive amount of concrete and steel and put in the other one. No, it has to be, the first one has to be taken out and the second one installed in the same place. So we have, the right of way for that overpass is very succinct. We can't increase the footprint on the ground, and it has to be in the same place. So we're stuck with that. Otherwise, there probably are better options for an overpass if you have a unlimited space to work with. So you can do, gradual sloping ramps and things like that. That can't be the case here. So we're stuck with the very small postage stamp of a footprint that we have on each side of the rail. It'll be interesting to watch. It might,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with you.
and they will shut down railroad traffic for a period of time
Oh, yeah.
when we're lifting and moving and things like that.
Working with the railroad's always fun.
That's been some of the longest piece of this project.
I can imagine.
I've had some experience with that. That's not fun.
Okay, I'm seeing yeses up here, Sean, for you
All
with that, okay?
So we'll get a agreement together and we'll see that in front of the board as well in the near future.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
We thank you very much for your consideration and your
Thanks for coming
support.
by.
We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
You two are.
Jessica?
Good morning, Jessica Warren, Human Resources. I just have one request for you, and that comes from Building and Planning. They're requesting to fill a Code Tech 2 to level 4. The employee that was previously in that position resigned last week.
So a replacement.
Yep.
At the same level, or what were they at before?
He was currently at a 3, and typically when we fill the Code Tech positions, we post it from a 2 to a 4 in case there's anybody with more qualifications that apply.
Yeah.
So we're giving you the ability to do a 4 if you find that person.
Correct.
Okay, I got it. All right,
Okay, that's all I have.
that's it?
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? I'm gonna tell Kelly how you worked this on this Monday. Anything else, gentlemen? Okay, enjoy the day off tomorrow. Honor our veterans. They done a lot for us. Amen. With that, we will adjourn.